Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. This is video 2 of the Yama Satya. Satya is the Sanskrit word for truthfulness, and this is the second video on this Yama. And in this video, we kind of set up in the last one, just Satya, truthfulness, high level, what it means. And in this video specifically, we're going to talk about self-expression versus self-indulgence. So we touched on that a little bit in the last video. This is going to dive in a little bit more. And essentially self-expression, truthfulness, honesty versus being nice is being real, and real leads to growth. Self-indulgence is being nice, and that really leads to a road of belonging. So we're going to explore that in this video a little bit. If you are new to this and you want to pause this video and you're kind of wondering what I'm doing here, you can go back and check out the intro video. But this video series is following along with the Yamas Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice by Deborah Adele book. So as I'm going through this book and as I'm doing the exercises week after week, I am shooting a video, and this is what we're doing here today. I probably will continue on with some other different book reviews and different video series and playlists. I have the Yama Niyamas playlist as well. But all of these are just so good. So it's something I wanted to do a video series on because I love to read, I love books, and I'm probably going to keep this up. So it's fun for me. I hope it's fun for you. So let's go. So in this section of Satya, truthfulness, we're talking about self-expression and self-indulgence. So I'm going to read here just a couple pieces and parts from this section. When we habitually silence and distort ourselves, we begin to lose our lust for life and look towards other things to fulfill us. Self-indulgence. We forget that when we are here on this earth to express in a way no one else has and ever could. We are originals. I'm an original, you're an original. We're all originals, and we have something original to offer. Even if we're looking at another person and we don't really think that they are, we see so many people. Just look at social media. It's like everyone's trying to look like Kim Kardashian, and while I think she's beautiful, I don't know why, because we're all just so, but I also see people being themselves. I see people like Lizzo and just so many others just owning their body and body acceptance and their beautiful colored skin and all of these things, like people just saying, yes, I'm here and this is who I am, and I'm not putting extensions in my hair anymore because what you see is what you get. And you are an original, and you're here to do something original, even if you might not feel that way now. I promise you that is the case. We can feel this urge within us wanting to bubble up and say to the world, I'm here. Our self-expression can find its way into the world in many forms, but when the process of our self-expression is imposed on for whatever reason, we can easily turn towards self-indulgence. And I think a really, really good example of this is, and I can speak 100% from experience on this, is when I mentioned this in the last Yama, these all go hand in hand, but when you pick a career or you choose a career 12 years ago that maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm just so unhappy and I don't like this environment. I don't like the environment that I'm in, or I don't like all the people that are around me. You totally, guilty as charged, you start to become nice. You wake up in the morning and you put a mask on. And that this is how you've learned to adjust and face the day, because you're not facing it honestly. Because if you were being honest, and there's 1,000,001 reasons why we don't do this, folks, so I totally get it. But if we were being honest, we would quit. If we were being honest, we would just say, you know what, this is not my jam anymore. But for so many reasons, we're afraid to not do that. And you know, whether it's we don't know what next is, and for me, that's been a huge thing. Who am I? What do I want? What do I need? What's the environment that I need? Truthfulness of the situation. So I've chosen self-indulgence. I've chosen to put a mask on my face and go in every day in the hopes that I'm accepted. And what will happen, what will eventually happen, and in some regard has already started to happen, is you start to act out in ways that you typically wouldn't. You start to do things or say things or behave during meetings in a certain way, or just these little things here and there where you step away from it, or you go out all depressed in your car at the end of the day and you go, that isn't me. Like, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't the mark I want to leave. And it's like, well, if you don't want to do that, then act differently. But it's not the point, because you're in an environment that you don't want to be in. And you're in a place where you're not able to be truthful about it. So you're being self-indulgent. And a lot of times with self-indulgence, we act out in ways that are violent to ourselves. And it looks a lot of different ways. Huge, massive, heartbreaking issue that we have as human beings is addiction. Addiction in all of its forms. And 100% of the time, 100% of the time, it is because we're putting a mask on and we're just not really being who we are. So it's easier to drown our sorrows in alcohol, food, you name it, pornography, just sex, drugs. Everything at some point is bad for you in that level of self-indulgence, that you start to just go inward and you hold all of this, every bit of who you are inside, and you're not expressing any of it. So it's got to come out somehow. And when it's not coming out, it's painful and it feels like pain. So we look for the one thing that can really take the pain away. And I think if everyone could be truthful about whatever it is that has put them in that place and learn the steps to handling it and working through it, because the only way out is through, we would be a lot less self-destructive as people. And we would be more truthful in a way that we're not as worried about acceptance. Like, I'm not as worried about acceptance in my life anymore, because the small tribe of people that I have around me accept me for who I am. And I love that. I would rather have 5 followers than have 1 million and not be able to be myself around them. Another good example is if you're on social media at all, which I am. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And one of the things I love doing on Instagram is I love scrolling through. I love searching. I love going to people's pages I don't know. I love seeing what people are up to. And I love looking at influencers, because it really does make me laugh. It's just such a weird world we live in, man. But if you've ever seen the influencer couple, you know, the girl who smoking hot bod, like all she does is work out, and because she's an Instagram influencer, she's got like an amazing trainer, and everyone's sending her free protein shakes, so she doesn't really need to eat food, and she's perfect in every way physically. Kind of shallow, doesn't seem like that deep of a human, but you know, whatever. She's doing her thing. And she meets the guy who's also doing the same thing. And then they get together and they have these beautiful babies and this beautiful life. And we only see what's on Instagram. But it makes you wonder, like, what do you do when you fall in love with an idea of how somebody is? Like, are you ever really allowed to lay around in your sweatpants? What is this person's reaction going to be the first time they experience you sick? Or they experience you first thing in the morning and you don't have makeup on your face, or you haven't been able to shave in a while, so you're looking kind of nuts, or, you know, how much of this soul is this other person seeing, and how much of this false reality then trickles into the personal life of who these people really are, just feeling like this constant need to keep up appearances. And I'm sure the Kardashians could tell us a lot about that. But it reaches a point of being untruthful, because it's like, normal people don't live like this. Like, even on their worst day, have you ever watched an episode and like anyone's looking really that rough? I mean, come on. I mean, even laying in bed and like someone being sick in that family is still like better than me on my best day. Like, it's like, how do you know what's real after a while? And is real life really even real life anymore when that line starts to get blurred? And then this example sets an unrealistic precedent for everyone else, especially younger people that are watching these influencers really thinking that that's what life is about. And how much truth is really in it when you're not really allowing someone to see you for who you are. And a good example Deborah Adele gives in here in this chapter, she talks about how when she first met her husband, she assumed he was a gay man. She did not think that he was a straight guy. So she never worried too much about appearances when she was around him. She was always 100% herself. She wasn't like trying to score brownie points in how she was sitting or how she was eating and whatever. And then when she found out that, he wasn't gay and he was actually quite interested, that they moved on and forward into a relationship just built on total, complete trust and honesty. And I can say, in the beauty of what that is, I have experienced that in my life. And it was a wonderful thing to be able to just be who I was, because why not? Why not? I mean, at the end of the day, this person is going to see me looking crazy anyway. At the end of the day, me being all done up and prim and proper, those walls have a tendency to come down when you're friends with someone. When you're friends with someone first, and you'll hear that so often. I've heard it so often from really successful older couples, like, what was the secret? We were friends first. Because when you're friends, you face all sorts of things together as friends, and the masks are just simply not on. Which is why I feel like online dating just never has and never will work for me, because I just don't wear masks. And don't get me wrong, if I'm meeting someone out for a date, I'm going to look good. But, at the end of the day, you're going to get 100% unadulterated Regina. And that's not what a lot of people do. A lot of people put this mask on and it's like, I don't know if they'll like me. I don't know if they'll, and you know what? You might meet me. You might not like me. And that's okay. But I would rather be truthful now than for us to like get 2 years down the road or a year down the road. And then we end up getting married and then we end up getting divorced. And what a nightmare, It's like, let's just be who we are. And let's just be honest about who we are. And I loved that. I love that she included that, that story in Satya. So I'll read another excerpt from this book. Living the life that cries to be lived from the depth of our being frees up our energy and vitality. We benefit and everyone around us benefits. She goes on to give an example from a man that is a voice teacher and an author of a book called Vocal Power, Harnessing the Power Within. And there's an exercise in this book where he tells students to go home, record themselves reciting a poem, and then singing a song. Do it one time. Then take all of your clothes off and do that same exercise again. He says that he can always tell just in listening, this was not like a take off your clothes and videotape yourself. This was like a audio record yourself the first time with clothes on, do it again with your clothes off. He said he can always tell which recording was done naked because the naked version is always much more vibrant. Because there's a sense of freeness. It's free to just be naked. And what you are and is just what you are, and that's what you see. There's none of this to hide behind. It's just you. So if it's just you singing a song, it's just you and that song, man. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I love that example. I love it. And this section ends with her saying, in all the ways we package ourselves and protect ourselves, or when we choose the safety of belonging over the inner need to grow, we also dull ourselves. And my advice to you would be, don't ever dull yourself because you're in a scenario where you're more concerned about if people are going to like you or not versus telling the truth. And it's a very, very unpopular thing, and I'm going to tell you, it's a real unpopular thing in corporate America. I have said to people that I have reported to, I am here to do a job. I am a person of integrity. I withhold the ethics, our ethical code of this company. And if you have a direct issue with me, it must be personal. And I'm just not that concerned about it. Because it doesn't fall into any context anywhere where they could actually say anything about it, because I'm doing my job. I'm not doing anything out of turn that someone would have to say, okay, you know, we need to sit down and talk about this, or you kind of came across, or it's a personality conflict. It's not. I'm still being respectful. I'm being kind. I'm just being truthful. It doesn't always score you brownie points, especially when you're being truthful and other people are being nice and you're able to see right through it. Because usually they know that you can see right through it. So this is also why it's so important that we find our voice and we find the people in our lives that we should be around, that we find our tribe. So week two activity at the back of Satya on this topic of self-expression. Are you playing small? Are you being small? Are you sitting inside of yourself and just thinking, oh, I don't have anything to offer, or oh, I'm stuck on so being nice? Spend this entire week in self-expression. Make movement towards the external world with your internal hopes and dreams. Act on life-giving opportunities despite the consequences. So don't worry about consequences. Observe what happens in you. Observe how others react. If you find yourself in self-indulgence, ask yourself, what am I not expressing? Because when you're not expressing, that turns into self-violence. Like we talked about, addictions, overeating. I am guilty. I am someone that loves to eat her feelings. I own that. But it's awareness. Start building that awareness, and that's what this week is about. And if you're struggling with self-expression, whether it's acting on internal, if it's truly like getting the ball rolling on what those hopes and dreams look like, and just make no apologies for it, like you're doing it, great. If it's more about, I don't understand this truthfulness piece, or it's something as simple as, if you're someone that's typically quiet, that wouldn't express things, I'd really like to check this out, or use this next time I'm in the food store and someone's in my way. If you want to dive into more about how to speak with integrity and be impeccable in your word, something that I would suggest, which I'm not going to deep dive into it now. I can always do this like on a separate, maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a separate book review on the Fifth Agreement. So the Fourth and Fifth Agreement are two separate books by Don Miguel Ruiz and Don Jose Ruiz. And this is kind of what the art looks like. And this is actually audio, because this is the Fifth Agreement. The Fourth Agreement is the Fourth Agreement, the Four Agreements. I think the Four Agreements is what it's called. Sorry. This is the next one where they added a Fifth Agreement, and it's based on Toltec wisdom. So it's really, really interesting. But the 5 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, always do your best, and be skeptical but learn to listen. I have learned a lot from Toltec wisdom, and I have learned a lot from this book. So I can always review it, but definitely check this out if you're looking for ways to get past nice and you want to step in truth, honesty, and you want to learn how to be impeccable with your word. I think that book will be a really great resource for you. But that's all I have for week two. Week 2 of, I'm looking around here, I'm like, wait, where am I? Week 2 of Satya. I hope this helps you and you're enjoying this as much as I am. I love you all. If you have not taken a moment to thank God just for being alive today, please take a moment to do so now. Love you. Be well.